A coworker was at one of my best friend's wedding. There were very specific rules about the food. No nuts. There were a couple of people there, including the maid of honor, who were severely allergic. The venue served something that had nuts, and the maid of honor went anaphylactic. EpiPen was not effective, and she died on the way to the hospital. Needless to say, there are lawsuits abound. We attended a wedding for a family member who didn't have a lot of money. It was hosted at an inexpensive venue, but was nice. My heart broke when only a third of the people invited showed up. You could see the hurt in the couple's face. They came up to our table and said, "Do you have any friends in the city? We live an hour away." They had all this food for 100 people, but only 30 guests. They were willing to have complete strangers come down just so their money and food would not go to waste. We hadn't handed over our card with cash inside yet, so my husband hit the ATM and added another $100. I'm a wedding photographer. I was at one really fancy one a couple of years ago. Typical outdoor deal at a swanky location in the middle of nowhere. The place was really nice, had a large concrete stairway flanked by water fountains that led down to the altar area, so the bride could be seen by all like she was descending from heaven. The ceremony begins and the bridal party comes down and takes their places. Then the bride appears with her father. She takes 3 or 4 steps down the concrete steps, and her shoe twists on her. She tumbled down a good 12 feet or more and busted out the majority of her front teeth in the fall. So much blood all over her. With the place being so isolated, it took a good 40 minutes for ambulance to arrive, and she was in intense pain. Ultimately, she was okay, and I got an email from them weeks later with the rescheduled date. This time, there were no stairs anywhere in sight. The wedding was at a state park that's famous for its giant gorge or waterfall. I don't know whose idea this was, but someone suggested a photo overlooking this gorge, and everybody was game. The wedding party went around a stone security barrier, and the maid of honor literally fell off the cliff to her death. It was like over 500 feet. The bride's father was 45 minutes late to walk his daughter down the aisle. While we were waiting, the air conditioning broke in the venue. It was over 100 degrees outside and so humid. The place was overcrowded. You could barely move without bumping into someone else, and in the heat, that was extra miserable. I guess the air conditioning problem had also affected the refrigeration or something, because most of the food was spoiled. The only food on the buffet was salad, spaghetti, and rolls. Not enough to feed even half the guests. Most people left after the first dance. 2 of the bride's aunts fainted. The bride and the wedding planner were crying. Not ruined, but marred. My ex-wife's grandmother was in her 90s, in a wheelchair. While we were up at the altar, she would not shut up about the flowers and that they might need water. She's not talking quietly to her neighbor. She's yelling in her old lady voice. She didn't have dementia, but she had no volume control or any inkling that what she was doing was inappropriate. She thought the flowers needed water and said, "They look terrible," she yelled. One of the cousins, without saying anything, got up and started to just wheel her out. "Where are we going?" she yelled. We all got a chocolate grandma and went on with the ceremony. A friend of my girlfriend was getting married. The wedding was quite normal. They got married in the local church, and then there was the party in a nice restaurant. The photographer asked the bride and her bridesmaids, my girlfriend was one of them, to go outside for some photos. Some minutes later, one of the bridesmaids came back asking for help. There were some swans that attacked the photographer, and the majority of the people around him were not doing anything much more than laughing at this guy who was running around and screaming. My mother was a church organist and attended many weddings. I suppose the story that stands out was of the bride who, when asked, "Do you take this man?" broke down and said, "No, I can't. I don't love him," and ran out of the church. It was a smallish town. People found out that she had met somebody new, fallen hopelessly in love with him. Big wedding, around 500 people. All the future's wife's doing. She wanted the huge $70,000 wedding. I was a groomsman. Pre-wedding, the groom's nervous as hell. All these people, it has to be perfect. This is her dream wedding. So at some point, the whiskey gets pulled out. It went from a calm the nerves few shots to he's just about finished the bottle. We give him water, get him in the shower, and redressed. It's go time. Midway through her vows, he pukes all down the front of her dress. It was horrible, but it was great. They're going on 8 years strong. The groom's father groped both the bride and his daughter, my then girlfriend, multiple times each. Ended up getting punched out by his son and locked in a minivan for a few hours until he sobered up. It was a big wedding, over 300 people. Turns out the bride had been having an affair with her cousin's husband. The cousin had known for a little bit, but waited until the wedding to go table to table, letting everyone know the bride was sleeping with her husband. The poor groom was blindsided. Worst part was his father-in-law was well off and opened up a restaurant for him. Well, he lost his wife and his new restaurant. I don't think I've attended any scandalous weddings. They were all pretty traditional and well planned. How about you guys? Any stories to share? I'd love to read them. But for now, that's it for today's video. Please like and subscribe for more, and I'll see you soon. Bye!